And a good Thursday afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining for this Coastcast afternoon update on the tropics out there. We're looking at, of course, Tropical Storm Elsa. It was Tropical Depression 5 last night during Tropics After Dark, and now that it became a storm, of course, now the name is Elsa. So we're going to be tracking this one for a little while now, and there's still a lot of uncertainty in the long range for this. So let's talk about what we know now and kind of what we may know moving forward. And so, I know it gets frustrating sometimes where we don't have, an answer about landfall, but, that's just the nature of the tropics. And especially when there's something so far out, it's hard. It's hard to know the final destination for this storm. So let's get right to it. There's the satellite picture. We're about to lose the visible because the sun's going down out there where it is currently. So you see it get dark at the end there. Thanks for watching, everyone, and joining. From Cayman Islands again. Thanks for joining, Carmen, and I'll talk about that in just a second as far as where this thing could cross. Close to the Cayman Islands. So just hang on a second for that. So what we're looking at right now is a very fast-moving storm. I mean, it's hauling, here to the west. I believe it's moving like 28 miles per hour or so, and that prevents it from strengthening very rapidly. So that's good news, at least for the short term, that when it's moving very fast, thanks, Kimberly, for that. I appreciate that. When it's moving very quickly to the west like that, with these tropical systems, you need a mid-level, low-level centers kind of vertically stacked. And when it's going this fast, sometimes they have trouble kind of staying together. So don't expect rapid intensification, at least for the next 24 to 48 hours. We could see gradual strengthening. But for now, that's what's happening. You can kind of see it in this loop, kind of a spin in this area at the end. And then there's something of in this area. So maybe it is having some trouble getting stacked right now. But that may change as we move forward, as it's supposed to slow down a bit, and that may help it to strengthen a little bit in the next 24 to 36 hours. So looking at the big picture here, and you can see the satellite going out because of the sun going down out there, but there it is. You can see it's got a nice structure. I mean, even though it's not very strong right now, you can certainly, thank you for that, Gwendolyn, I appreciate it. You can certainly see the tropical look, right? I mean, if you just had to look at the satellite and pick it out, it would be pretty easy to do so. There it is. And again, it's going to continue pushing off to the west and should slow down a bit, like I said, the next 36 hours. But there's some uncertainty in the long term. The players here, as far as why it's moving to the west and the turn is going to happen, those are the usual suspects. That we have in the tropics. We got a high pressure to the north. We got a front that's going to be dipping down and creating a bit of a weakness for this thing to begin to turn up to the north. The question is when is that going to happen, and what's the storm going to look like when it does happen? That's another big question. So basically, you have a high here, and right now it's just riding quickly along that high, and will continue to do so. Not going to be much change in it coming up in the next, couple of days. But at the end, the long term, with that 5-day forecast, I stressed it last night. Don't pay too much attention to the 4 and 5-day portion of the National Hurricane Center. I stress that every year because there's so much uncertainty. We've already had a little bit of a shift last night to today as far as the track, a gradual shift to the west, and I told you that that's going to happen. We're going to see that windshield wiper thing happening with the cones. So please don't pay too much attention to the 4 or 5-day forecast, because lots can change with that, and it's going to frustrate you if you continue watching that and thinking that that's exactly where it's going to go, because it's going to change from day to day until we get this thing fine-tuned in the coming days. So keep that in mind. So here's what we have going on. Here's that nice Mardi Gras map I like to look at with the nice purple, green, and gold colors. And you can already see this little dip happening down here, right? It's moving to the south. That's going to be that trough. That's coming down a little bit. And it's going to create a weakness in that high pressure. Now, the big thing is how fast is that going to move? How strong is it going to be? It's July now. How strong will that be? Will it push it? That high pressure enough to the east where this thing maybe can escape, maybe harmlessly off northeast before it even hits the U.S. That would be the best scenario for the U.S. But the indication is that may not happen. It's going to continue to push more to the west, and then all bets are off. We got to really watch this, because at that point, it could get into the Gulf. And how strong will it be? Well, that remains the question. So look at this map, and then I'll switch over to, this map, right? So that's what we're looking at on the map we were just at. Here's that dip we're looking at. You go back, there it is, right there, right? I like to kind of match up what we're looking at real time versus what we're looking at in the model. So there's a dip, and here's the dip on here. So as we push that forward, watch as the storm, Elsa, starts to come in. There it goes, moving to the west. Remember, there's a high pressure here. I like to kind of tell this story so you get an idea of what we're doing and why this is happening. I feel like this kind of helps out. So you know the story of this, right? Somebody asked you at a dinner table, hey, why is the storm doing that? Well, here's why. You can really, tell them a story about that, shock them about, oh, how'd you know that? Well, here's what's happening, right? You got a dip here, and the trough's going to be dipping down. For now, the storm's going to be moving on this high, and we'll continue to go in this direction. But at some point, this trough's going to dip down enough where it starts to kind of nudge this high a little bit that way. And then that's when, so you see now the high, the edge of it's right here instead. And that's when the storm would begin to find a weakness and start to push around the periphery of this high and move more north and northeast. So that's the story of it, about why it's going to happen and, which elements are at play there, right? The dipping trough, the high pressure to the north, and this high pressure, eventually will be scooting over a little bit. Now, where are the, why can we have deviations in that, right? I mean, if we look at, let me show you this is the latest model suite, and kind of what the National Hurricane Center uses a little bit, along with some other models, but this is kind of what they use a little bit to make their latest cone, and I'll show you the cone in a second. But I just want to kind of tell you the story first, and then we'll look at the cone and talk about that. But here's a look at kind of the latest model suite and kind of what they use. And from last night, this did shift a little bit to the west. And remember, a lot of them were over the peninsula. Now a lot of them are in this eastern Gulf and going a little, along this panhandle. Remember, last night I kind of mentioned, I'd say anywhere over here, southeast Louisiana, all the way down the Florida peninsula here needs to watch this. Not just Florida. This is not set in stone that this is a Florida storm, although it could be. And the panhandle certainly in play. Got to look more west, though, because there are some scenarios where it would go in that direction. So there's the model suite, but look at the GFS ensembles, right? I mean, your guess is as good as mine, right? My point is that you have this line here, which I believe. Let me check here. This is the official cone of the National Hurricane Center that was just released at 4 p.m. And they have, there's the storm. But let me go back to this for a minute, and it's very close. I know that black line may be the National Hurricane Center forecast. It's close to it. Close enough, right? But look at the ensemble models of the GFS. I mean, we see certainly some different directions that this thing could head in. And when you see these orange colors, those indicate that we, possible Category 1 hurricane, and the blues and the greens are a little bit weaker, right? So not indicating a very strong storm, at least according to the GFS, but still indicating a different direction could be possible. So my point is that, if you had a real cone right now, as far as uncertainty goes, you'd be looking at something like that, right? But they're never going to make a cone that big. But my point is that there's still a lot of different scenarios that are in play here. So don't just say, and by the way, there's also a scenario, and the European model has been indicating that it's going to just get caught up in that trough and be weak and just kind of get sucked up there and go off to the northeast. That would be a great scenario for the U.S. Maybe an outlier right now, and probably not the most likely scenario, but the scenario is there. Something I wanted to show you here on the Windy app is this is what the GFS is indicating that we could see. This would be Tuesday at 8 a.m. So keep in mind, it's Tuesday. We're at Thursday right now. So Friday, Saturday, so yeah, so 4 or 5 days away. That's what the GFS is indicating. Possible weak hurricane, maybe. They are just north of Cuba, and it would be moving possibly toward the Panhandle or the western side of the Florida Peninsula. The point I want to stress here is that's the GFS, but watch the European model. There's the European model. Do you see anything? So, yeah, big differences as far as strength and direction from the two most reliable models, in years past. This may be what this may be it right here, maybe. Just a weak little low getting sucked up in that trough and moving to the northeast. So if you like the European model and you think the European model might be correct, well, that's a great model for the U.S. It's not going to do much, right? Just get sucked up there. But obviously we can't say that that's going to be the case because you got another one, GFS, which in my opinion at least last season and this season too, a couple of storms earlier in the season, has handled things very well. So I actually do respect the GFS a lot of times. But every model has their day. And, just because one model's good for one, maybe the other one's good for the other. But that's why we use the model suite and use a few of them, where you just don't take one of them for granted. But the National Hurricane Center, this is the UK model, by the way, the United Kingdom model. National Hurricane Center puts a lot of stock in those two models, and they always have, the GFS and the UK model, and they're still trending west. And so that's why they specifically stated in their discussion. I'm not just saying they did. I'm not just talking, not just saying that they said that in their discussion, I'm reading this word for word from the National Hurricane Center right now. They said the last part of the new track that was issued at 4 p.m. is still leaning more toward the GFS and the UK solutions, but they stressed the confidence is low. So that is very important to understand here with this, that the confidence in the forecast cone, and there it is very low at this time, especially in the long term. So just like I told y'all last night, if you were watching Tropics After Dark, this area right here where you got the little polka dots, that's the 4 to 5 day part of the cone. You really need to be careful at paying attention to that and saying that's where it's going to go, because that thing changes so much, and I've seen it in the past change so much, especially when you're in the long-term section. Be careful to take much stock into that right now when we're sitting Thursday, and this isn't until Monday and Tuesday time frame. So as Jennifer asked just now, Jennifer, I saw the question, when is it scheduled to be near the U.S. Indoor Golf? We're looking at probably Monday into Tuesday is when it would be getting close to it. So still a little bit of time to watch this. All right, let me go back up for a second here. I know we had a couple of folks. I think Carmen from the Cayman Islands was asking a question here, and here we go. There's the Cayman Islands, of course. And so this storm is looking like, remember, you're in that kind of confidence part of the forecast, right? This part that's not shaded. So keep it in mind there in the Cayman Islands, this storm does look like it's going to cross close to your area heading into Sunday afternoon, okay? So Cayman Islands, Sunday afternoon-ish. Again, that timing could change a little bit, depending on sometimes when it interacts with some island land masses. Sometimes it could start to slow down a little bit. We'll see. But it looks like Sunday around the Cayman Islands could absolutely be impacted by tropical storm conditions. So keep that in mind, Carmen. I know you watch it from there, but that looks like the timing of it. As far as the strength of it, hard to know right now, but I'd prepare for at least a tropical storm, maybe 60, 65 miles per hour at this point. Thanks, Caleb. I appreciate that. All right, let me go back up here and see what we're looking at here. Some questions. Give me a second. Hey, Jennifer from Kennebra. Good to see you on here. Pascagoula Deborah, thanks for joining. Good afternoon, Darren. Thanks for joining from Florida. Louisiana concern. I wouldn't rule it out, T-Rock. Definitely wouldn't say this is not a Louisiana concern, because to me, it's too close to call right now. And again, there is too many scenarios that do take it a little bit more toward the northern Gulf Coast. So certainly from Louisiana, got to watch this thing. I'm not ruling that out just yet. Absolutely not. Angelique from Panama City, thanks for joining today. West we go, Jennifer. Appreciate it. Let's see what we have here. Give me a second. Watching Carmen, thank you for that. Barbara's curious about Elsa. Yes, everyone is, right? It's kind of early. Thank you, Carmen, for that. I appreciate it. For the stars. All right, so when should the Gulf Coast start to worry about this one, James? Hard to say as far as worrying, if that's necessary right now. I mean, look, right now you just remain vigilant, watch this, see where it's going. As far as worrying about it, I mean, once we get into Sunday and into early Monday, we're going to have a better idea of where this is going to be going, right? That's going to be west of Jamaica, south of Cuba at that point. And then, certainly at that point, we'll have a hold of this. And then any landfall would be probably Tuesday, Wednesday-ish, somewhere along maybe the Gulf Coast, if it makes it that far. Remember, the European model has this thing dissipating and getting sucked into that trough. So still a lot of scenarios here. So certainly I wouldn't be worried right now. But we got to watch it because there's a tropical storm out there. And right now, the indications are that it could get close to the to the Eastern Gulf. But there's a lot of stuff that needs to be written. This story with the storm, a lot of different things coming up to watch. Yes, already tired of this season too. Yeah, it's only July 1st, and this is kind of not really a typical track that we get from a storm coming from this direction in July. A lot of times we get, no problem, Brent. A lot of times we get the storms that are a little more homegrown in the Caribbean or even the Southern Gulf, kind of moving to the north, and they're kind of weak. But to get a track from this direction, I'm sure it's happened before, but it's not common. So, yeah, it's a different season can have different things happen. So certainly something to watch. Janice says her husband's in Cuba working. Yeah, he's going to watch this one. Cuba time frame looks like Monday afternoon, so certainly something to keep an eye on there. There's no doubt about it. Let's see. Caleb, there's different options. If you want to support the page, you can become a supporter. You can send stars. Either way, I appreciate that. Appreciate all supporters and the star senders, really do. So yeah, there's a couple of options available there, Caleb. Appreciate it. Let's see. When should I already answered that one? Lake Charles, Cayman. Oh, okay, cool. Carmen's from Lake Charles and the Cayman Islands. Awesome. No problem, Jennifer. Okay, so how warm's the Gulf? Deborah asked. I was looked last night. Different areas, different temperatures, but anywhere. I mean, it's warm enough. We're looking anywhere 82 to 84 degrees. Much warmer though, where it's moving right now through the Caribbean. So certainly, it's got the warm water right now. In the next couple of days, the only thing I think it's going to hamper it from rapidly developing in the next 24 to 48 hours is the forward motion of it. It's moving very fast. And typically when these things move so fast, I mean, it's zooming this way. And typically when they move this fast, they can't really develop very quickly, right? It's moving, I think 28 miles per hour right now. That's very fast for one of these storms. Let me confirm that speed, but I think it's 28, 29 miles per hour. So, very fast mover. So I think that will at least keep it at bay. Yes, we could see some gradual strengthening, but I don't think I don't think it's going to explode out there as far as rapid strengthening. So, yeah, that's what we want to watch out for. But that probably won't happen until we get past the next 24 to 36 hours. No problem, Stephanie. So looking forward here, let's see what we got here. Give me a second. Push this forward. Yeah, so looking back at the cone, tropical storm warnings are obviously in the blue areas here in the islands. We got tropical storm watches in the yellow colors. And then timing-wise, no folks have been asking. I know folks joined late here, so I just want to kind of touch on a summary of what we're seeing this afternoon. We have officially tropical storm Elsa out there. It's still, at 45 miles per hour, so we haven't seen any rapid strengthening, and I don't expect that because of the forward speed. But what we're seeing here is a storm that's going to be moving to the west-northwest, and this part of the track's pretty certain up to this point, right? Looking like that's going to happen, and then after that, we got some divergence, in the cone. And, I just want to stress to you, and I put this last night, I'd say anywhere southeast Louisiana all the way down to Florida, and even the east side of Florida, right? This whole area, this storm could end up anywhere in this eastern Gulf if it survives, the trek into the islands. So gotta all watch it, because this is what I showed before, the ensemble models of the GFS, right? If you were to make a cone out of this, you'd be looking something like that kind of cone. So, and then the center would be somewhere around there. So yeah, everyone in especially kind of toward the eastern Gulf needs to watch this, because there's just so much to be determined at the end of this track here. But we got a lot of days to do it. It's not going to sneak up on us, right? That's the one good thing about hurricanes and hurricane tracking compared to like tornadoes, earthquakes that they say other places. You got some warning time here, and some time to watch this. So keep that in mind. So that's the latest on Tropical Storm Elsa. And just for fun, I like to show a picture of what's going on a little bit closer to home, right? Some pretty images. This is Fort Walton Beach. And water's looking not too rough out there. It was a lot rougher in the last weekend, but now it looks like we still got a little rough, but much better, right? End this on a happy view of the beach at Fort Walton. Hopefully it stays pretty into next week and we don't have to deal with any tropical trouble along the Gulf. But it's certainly something that we got to watch. So I appreciate y'all for joining today for this tropical update. I'll be back probably tonight to talk about the latest cone and see if there's anything new on there. Thank you to the supporters. Thank you for the star senders. I appreciate it. And I'll post an image to the page as well in just a few minutes that just want to make sure that if you want to see every update, the live updates that I do, I just want to make sure y'all have the right settings on the page, because a lot of people have been saying, hey, I follow your page, but I don't know when you go live. And so Facebook has weird algorithms where even if you're following the page, sometimes you don't see it. So that's unfortunate. Oh geez, that guy right there is running. Where's that kid going? Anyway, I'm gonna post an image that says just some direction to make sure that you have all your settings correct, that you're seeing the updates from this page. So thank y'all for joining, and I'll post that to the page in just a few minutes, and be on the lookout for that, and I will be back later. But that is the latest on Tropical Storm Elsa, and I'll probably see y'all later tonight for Tropics After Dark. Those people are having a lot of fun on the beach.